One can be aligned with every pack, and would complete our own. With you, we would have the 6 talents. He gestures to the 4 werewolves surrounding him. Yi is a budding stealth talent, which means he can turn fully invisible when he finally develops his skill. Jake is a sabertooth talent, which means he has long, retractable claws that are somewhat like a sabertooth tiger's teeth. Xavier is an earthquake punch talent, which pretty much explains itself, and Wes is a charm talent. He can charm his opponent within a couple of seconds, and almost hypnotize them into doing his will. And I am a beast talent. What's that, I wonder, staring into Ray's almost perfect face, stained with a darkness I can't quite explain. He is a mirror image of Xavier, but yet they so different. How can this be? When I morph, I can truly be a beast, he says softly, his menacing eyes scouring my skin. Under his gaze, I feel tingles of terror shiver through my spine. Anyways, Wes says, slinging a graceful arm around my thin shoulders. What else would you like us to explain? How do you become a spear, I wonder? Do you have to be a werewolf? It seems cool, spirit spears. The chance to abolish my parents' murderers, the ones that deprived me of a happy childhood. Everything seems too crazy, too wild to believe, but somehow, I know that it all is true every time I gaze into their emerald eyes. No, Xavier states fiercely. You are not going to be one. Don't tell her. Ray looks at Xavier with a mixture of confusion and annoyance. She deserves to know, he replies. She made the choice when she decided to run into the forest in the very beginning. His brown hair glimmers as he makes his way towards me, his emerald eyes unblinking. You do not have to be a werewolf, yet you will gain immortality. You will be with your loved one forever. I said no, Xavier growls. Pushing Ray to the wall, digging his fingers into his throat. She is not going to be awakened, so shut up. Ray, tension mounts in the room as everyone grows silent, my head still spinning from the madness I have launched myself into. Why can't I know, I question, my voice stammering, tinged with fear at Xavier's anger. Why is it so bad? You only have a 50% chance or lower of surviving to be a spear when you are awakened, Jake answers quietly. Xavier shoots a scowl at Jake, roughly releasing Ray from his grasp. Ray takes a step away from Xavier, and smiles. Think about it. Mona, with these last words, he disappears out of the room, slinking away so fast that even Xavier has no time to slug him with one of his potent fists. Ray, Xavier moans, putting a hand against his forehead. He looks up and faces Jake. Yi, and Wes. He doesn't like me very much. Does he? They all look at each other, and then simultaneously nod. But we're behind you all the way, Wes pumps his fist in the air. Right, guys? Yeah, Jake agrees, but Yi stays silent, like he has been almost the entire time. A piece of his coal-black hair falls into his face, his green eyes expressionless. It's not my business, Yi says. Not looking into Xavier's slightly irritated face. Wes's face is bent in annoyance also, my expression of pure confusion. He turns to leave, muttering, I'm going to practice. Without another word, he vanishes, leaving uncertainty behind him. Oh, he's just like this because he's the youngest and he hasn't developed his talent yet, Wes tries to wave it off. He's probably jealous of you because you have everything he doesn't, the best talent, looks, and position in the pack. But we don't need jealousy, Xavier laments, his voice rough and full of anguish. We need loyalty. Now, Xavier, Jake smiles. Patting him on the back slightly. We're a family. It is good for families to have little disagreements every once in a while. It helps us grow closer. Xavier looks at them both, his eyes fierce. I gaze at him, drinking in his startling blue hair and enticing eyes, his lips as he forms his next words. It is all his face, his body, his every movement perfect. There must be something wrong with me. I wouldn't exactly call this a little disagreement, he murmurs. Then whirls to face me. My heart begins to beat faster, and I suddenly find it hard to breathe. How can one look affect me this way? I'm going to take her to the orphanage, he suddenly spurts, taking my arm and dragging me along with him. I can feel his harshness, so different from the gentle touches I am used to. His movements are stiff and brisk, each step robotic. Even his grip on my arm is strange, so tight that it almost cuts off my circulation. We pass through the old-fashioned corridors into the beautiful lobby. I gaze at the spectacular artwork, yet being careful not to look above. For if I do, I might burst into tears. Xavier doesn't seem to notice my sudden insecurity. His expression unchanging. He pulls me to the bridge, forcing me to cross it with him. I think of earlier, when Xavier was smiling and laughing with me as we first reached this place. It seems so distant now, like the whisper of a memory that is on the brink of fading away. We walk for a little while, his grasp tightening. It feels like it is going to explode, my hand, my whole body, and my heart. I am scared of this stranger. This man full of uncertainty and worry. The carefree version of Xavier, the guy that is so naive, is the one I just might be falling for. Suddenly a flashing pain enters me, his grip suddenly bone-breaking in strength. "Let go of me," I scream, my voice filled with pain and anguish. Crumpling to the ground. I cradle my hand with the other, letting the life flow back into it. Xavier turns, startled, and I just stare. He runs to me, bending down so his handsome face is at eye level. "Did I hurt you?" he asks, his face flushed. I gaze at him, tears brimming at the corner of my eyes. Slowly I let them fall, running down my face in rivers. "I'm so sorry," he murmurs, sweeping me into a hug, his touch now like before. After a minute, he pulls away, and I notice that his face mirrors my own, tears staining his cheeks also. Strangely, I laugh. I can finally see him. This is the man I know. "You are better now," I smile through my tears. "I don't mind the hurt, as long as you are okay." What am I saying? I must be going crazy. Xavier looks at the floor, his unnaturally long eyelashes fluttering against his cheek. "I'm so sorry. Mona," he apologizes, a hint of sadness in his tone. "It is just that I'm worried about how this is all going to turn out. I want you to be safe more than anything." He finally lifts his head at these words, his face contorted in a scowl. "And Ray cares nothing for your safety. He is a heartless werewolf. Mona, more than anyone else. Then why did you take him in?" "Because he is a beast talent," Xavier shakes his head. "And because he is my twin brother. I can't turn away family." I reel back from his words. They are very identical, but their personalities are so different that it is somehow difficult to believe. I suppress a heavy yawn, and Xavier chuckles quietly. "Let's get you home." Picking me up in his tender embrace, he begins to zoom through the forest, everything a blur. I let my eyes close, feeling more comfort than I have in a long time. Why does Xavier always do this to me? After a short while, we reach the ugly orphanage, a collage of graffiti, brick, scattered paint, and rough landscaping, and halt. I scan it quietly. Taking in the 2 stories of misery, the windows that are commanded to be shut always, the old door that barely swings on its hinge. "Thank you, Xavier," I smile, though suddenly feeling fear. Ms. Penn is going to kill me for being out so late. My walk becomes a soldier's, knowing that each step leads me to certain death, or sometimes torture. Xavier vanishes, making me feel more alone than ever. I never thought I would miss his desire to follow me absolutely everywhere, but now, a pit of nervousness builds in my stomach. What is Ms. Penn going to do to me? With shaking fingers, I slide the door open, only to fall prey to the vicious beast. There Ms. Penn stands, her face contorted in anger, her hair frazzled and messy. "Where have you been?" she roars, grabbing me in the arm so tightly that I wince. My head shakes as she drags me over to the kitchen. With long, switch-like fingertips, she slashes me, slapping my skin with all her might. Pain erupts, vivid, dastardly hurt that spreads throughout my entire body like wildfire. She smirks as the blood starts to appear, staining my tomato-red cheek. "People shouldn't have to worry about you," she snarls. "You are too useless and ugly for them to waste their time over." I bend my head, hoping to avoid another terrible slap, my tears racing to join the blood. "I'm sorry," I apologize, my words almost a cry. "Well, sorry is not enough," she snaps. "You will have to clean the entire orphanage tomorrow after school, instead of just your room. And that includes their rooms. The lunchroom, and the bathrooms." I flinch at the word bathroom. They are so dirty that the orphanage usually has to bring in a professional cleaning team to get it done. "Please, Ms. Penn," I beg, my voice anguished. "I won't have any time for homework if I clean the entire orphanage. That is a task for maybe 2 to 4 days. She smiles in return. "Mona, if you don't get it done by tomorrow at 10 o'clock, then I won't give you any breakfast or dinner for the next week," I gasp, my breath caught in my throat. Turning towards the stairs. I run up them to my dorm, rushing to the room I like to call mine. Throwing myself onto the bed. I let them all loose, my tears now like a rushing river, my cheek throbbing with unbearable pain. "You are going to get the sheets wet if you continue like that," a melodic voice whispers, startling me in my silence. "Would you like to let me in?" I glance up at the window, spying the werewolf I thought had ditched me a while ago. He is sitting on the tree branch closest to my window, beckoning for me to open it. I crawl on the dull mattress to the wall, where the window is located, and flip the lock. With a little pain from the hand Xavier had hurt. I forced it open, wondering how Xavier can fit into such a tiny space. Suddenly, a creamy white mass flings itself through the window, landing on the same bed I am in. He peers at me with his emerald eyes, the wolf part of Xavier, and morphs into the handsome man that is coupled with the beautiful beast. His eyes widen at my cheek, stained ruby red with blood, pain, and tears. "What happened?" he asks, somehow compelling me to betray the truth. "Ms. Penn, slapped me," I finish in a whisper, choked gasps escaping me as a fresh wave of pain enters my body. I can still feel them, the nails as they dug into my cheek. My hand throbs also, but it nothing against this blinding terror, coupled with the agony. If I don't finish cleaning the entire orphanage tomorrow, which I won't, then she will deprive me of food for the next week. And I only have about $3 or $4 in my account at school, that's all," he asks suspiciously, and I gaze into his emerald eyes without a word. He nods, taking my hand in his, staring at the bruise that was starting to form. "I'll help you out of this. Mona," he determines, swirling his soothing fingers around the purple splotch. "Very soon." With those words, he leans closer to my face, escalating my heartbeat, making me almost tremble. Why is he getting so close? I haven't accepted him yet. He cups my face with his strong hands, brushing his lips across my cheek. I look in wonder as the pain recedes, retreating back to where it came from. As he lets go, I put my own hand to my cheek, feeling a slight wetness where the blood used to be over the puckered skin. "This works better when I'm in wolf form," he says apologetically. "But I didn't want you to think I was going to eat your cheek off." "What did you do?" I question, my voice filled with awe. "Werewolves' saliva has light healing properties, it can soothe and mend small scratches," he explains. "So this wetness. You spat on me," I exclaim in a loud whisper, shoving his arm away. He laughs as he wipes the saliva off my cheek, rubbing it on his shirt. For a minute, it seems utterly natural, us both laughing and smiling as we sit in a room with only one bed, an incredibly handsome man like him paired with a girl like me. None of the usual awkwardness surfaces, both of us like little children actually participating in his games. I push him off the bed, and he thumps on the floor. His hair ruffled and messy, his white teeth shining, he seems now more human than ever. He stands up, a piece of white fluff sticking to his hair, and grins. "Is this the real you, Mona?" he asks, using his all-knowing gaze to look into my soul. I stiffen a little at his words, a little perplexed. "What do you mean? I've always been the real me." "No," he argues. "You haven't. From the first minute I met you, you had shut me out. You had built a wall around you, an impregnable one that nobody could surpass. But now it is broken. Isn't it, Mona? Don't you feel better this way?" In a moment of reluctance, I lay down on the hard bed. Somehow, the orphanage's beds are harder than the floor, and has given me many sleepless nights. Patting the place beside me, I beckon for Xavier to join me. There is shuffling, and then there is his breath as it mingles with mine, another presence evident. I point to the stars out of the window, the millions of tiny dots scattered in the deep night. Once, when I was tiny, I asked my parents what stars really were. I had just finished watching The Lion King, and the part about the ancestors were really confusing me. They told me that the stars weren't really lions like the movie suggested, but people. Every star up there is a person that cared about me. When they died, they would join the stars and watch over me. They told me I would never be alone, for I would always have the stars as my companion. "And you believed that?" he sputters in laughter. "Shut up, Xavier. I was 4, I reach and pinch his arm, then continue on. Ever since then, I have always wondered which star would be Mom, and which one would be Dad. I think that Mom would be a beautiful and bright star because of her boisterous personality, and that Dad would be a little bit more subdued. But most of all, I know that if they are up there, they would definitely be close together, almost touching. Every night, I look up into the sky and try to find them, but I haven't yet. I know it is silly to have faith in something like this. But it is the only way for me to feel like I am not alone. There is silence as we both scan the deep black, hoping to see the two lights that I know I will instantly recognize. Mona, could you tell me what happened to them? He questions timidly, unintentionally releasing the pain and sorrow from within. I wince as they are all forced to the front of my memory, my mom, dad, and the haunting red eyes. I guess I do owe you an answer at least, I resignedly say. You have saved my life many times. Just tell me if you want to, he urges. Only if you feel comfortable. I'm fine, I reassure him, though tears still brim on the edge of my eyes. There is silence as I form my words, and then I speak. It was on a cold Friday morning when we were driving to the lake. We had rented a house there and were going to stay for a couple of weeks. It was a short drive, about 30 minutes, to reach the lake, so we just took Dad's truck. We were very excited, laughing and smiling, my mother sitting with me in the back seat. Everything was perfect, like a fairy tale. It was about 15 minutes into the journey that the weirdness started. First, the chills. Shivers suddenly started to race up and down my back, shocking me. Coldness seemed to seep into my skin, and even though I was tightly bundled in a huge jacket, that did nothing to stop it. Then there was the fear. I had no idea why, but I was deathly frightened. Of what? I had no clue. And lastly, the darkness. Everything seemed to go black at this moment, yet I could still see. It was strange, as if it wasn't an actual blackness, but only one inside my head. I thought I was going crazy. Suddenly, a creepy white thing appeared, the same one as the creature you killed earlier. It had a body like white mist and truly horrific eyes that could inflict terror just on its own. I screamed, trying to alert Mom, but she couldn't see it. She couldn't see the disastrous monster before me. Right then, the thing seemed to look at me with its awful gaze, delving into my soul. Then it turned, and focused on the man driving the car. Dad. It devoured him. I could see it. The evil white ghost had charged into Dad's chest, and he had suddenly gone rigid. Mom noticed his behavior, and called Dad's name, but he didn't turn, or lift his hands from the steering wheel. But he always pressed the gas. Never, even in his last moments of life, did he release the gas. Mom reached forward and touched Dad's shoulder, and he finally turned. It was truly horrific, frightening us both. His face was expressionless, but his beautiful chocolate eyes had turned to a deep, fiery ruby. Mom and I both started to panic, and she began to reach for the doors, to try to open them so we could both escape. But this stranger with the same face as Father had locked them, imprisoning us both inside. We began to approach a cliff, the bottom of it piddled with rocks and bushes, upon which we had to pass to reach the lake. Dad pressed the gas even harder. Ignoring the 25 miles per hour speed limit. We were going almost 70 miles per hour now, signaling certain devastation. When we reached the turn right at the cliff's beginning, Dad released the steering wheel. He leaned his head back, the spirit dwindling within him. I watched in fear as we drove off the edge of the cliff, suspended in the air for a few seconds before falling to our deaths. I don't know how I lived. Mom had jumped at me, shielding me with her body, but it was a 10 to 15 foot drop, full of bounces and rolls. Everyone called my survival a miracle, and that my life was saved by God, I whisper. But why would God want to save me? I burst into tears, the memories fresh and scything, hate brewing. Xavier watches me, his tears matching my own. It's okay. Mona, he murmurs as I cry, holding me tightly. You have me now. I'm here for you. I let the comfort surround me, feeling almost surprised at the fact that I wasn't pushing him away. But now, I needed him more than anyone. I hate them. Xavier, I cry, my voice of anguish. I hate the shifters, everything becomes blurry, my voice more and more distant. My eyes close, the droplets of sadness dripping down my cheeks, and I surrender myself into Xavier's warm embrace, hoping he will soothe my wounded heart. Since when was being kidnapped a good thing? The afternoon air is crisp and cold, dancing along a tiny girl's bare shoulders as she rolls down the windows. She shivers slightly as the air turns into a rushing wind, slapping at her cheeks. Angered by its sudden force, She rolls up the window quickly, lunging at her beautiful mother for comfort. Now, sweet child, calm down," the goddess says, the words melting like butter through her lips. Her hair was a deep ruby red, her eyes as green as a meadow on a bright summer day. Her daughter has the same features, sharing almost no likeness with her dad. However, the girl is blessed with her father's enchanting, hearty laugh and quiet personality. The girl is sniffling in the woman's embrace, reveling in the warmth the lady gives. Now she is not crying because of the ferocious wind, but because of the foreboding laced through the air, the foreboding only she can sense. It brings with it great cold, its deathly claws sinking into the girl's tiny body. The foreboding morphs in an instant to a bone-crushing fear, amplifying the chills that are resounding throughout her body, making her heart ache. It is like spikes of ice are being driven through her chest, even the air freezing from cold and raw terror. Everything around the little girl suddenly turns black, although she can still see the green of her mother's eyes, the back of her father's head as he maneuvers them down the winding road. It seems to be in the girl's mind, although her vision is still perfect. The girl starts screaming now. The whole world going dark before her eyes. Her mother's arms do nothing to calm her, for she has lost all traces of sanity. Or maybe not. Suddenly, all these strange symptoms begin to come together as out of the darkness, a creature emerges. With a body like a cloud, and truly horrendous fiery eyes, it is a thing like no other. A spirit. A ghoul. She screams. Monster, but her mother does not see. The expression of horror on the girl's face is not gracing her mother's fair complexion. She is just looking at her daughter in bafflement. Not at the true cause of it all. Why can't she detect the supernatural beast? Then, the living fear stares at the girl, terrorizing her with a single look. The eyes burn like lasers through her skin, reaching deep into her soul. Through those eyes, she sees hell. Then it vanishes, and the world slightly brightens. But the cold is still there. The fear is vibrant, thriving in the tiny truck. Where did it go? She can sense its presence, its disgusting scent hanging below her nostrils. Suddenly, her father's body becomes as stiff as a board, and she knows. It is then that the little girl realizes that nothing is ever going to be the same again. My eyes fly open, not willing to experience the nightmare once more. The cold claws of fear are gripping at my chest, just like it had years and years ago, the memories striking fury in my chest. It is endless, preserved in my scarred mind, raining upon me like millions of death blows. Poison, making me rot from the inside. Why am I suffering like this? What have I done to deserve such a terrible demolition of my chances at a normal life? I stare out the window, watching the orange and blinding yellow ripple across the sky as the majestic golden globe rises, wondering just where the stars go when faced with such magnificent light. They just seem to fade into the background as the main attraction emerges, as if they don't matter. As if the sun is more important than the twinkling jewels in the horizon. There is a rustle beside me on the hard bed, alerting my senses. I turn, my mind still foggy with confusion. An extremely handsome man lays beside me, bent in slumber. His eyelashes are long and enviable, peace befalling his flawless features. His face is unobstructed by silly facial expressions, in its purest form. I blink, confused on why exactly this man is here. Do I know him? Why is he in my bed? And why is his hand wrapped around my waist? In a flash, different memories begin to fill my thoughts like a flood, everything from the night before rushing back to me. My embarrassing moment of vulnerability. My uncharacteristic kindness. The dastardly werewolf that took advantage of my stupidity. With all my might, I push his form off the mattress, smiling in satisfaction when he collides with the floor. What did I do? Xavier moans, his sparkling emerald eyes squinting in pain. His blue hair catches the sunlight, making it shimmer like a rainbow. I glance, awestruck, at the pure opulence before me, then quickly look away. I can't be distracted by his deathly charm. What did you do to me? Why are you in my bed? I roar, causing him to jump up and zoom to my side. He slaps a giant hand over my mouth, his movement so fast that it is blurry. What are you thinking? He scolds in a scathing whisper. Do you want me to get discovered? Do you want to get in even more trouble? Idiot, his eyes are fierce. Demanding respect and authority. I rip his hands away from my mouth, anger like fiery hot sparks pumping through my blood. Answer my question, wolf boy, I snarl. He shrugs, obviously amused by my accusation. Remember last night? When you told me to get on the bed beside you, his voice is teasing, like chiding a child. When you fell asleep crying into my arms. Shut up, I almost choke. I don't remember. Yes, you do, he murmurs with a chuckle. I can see it in your face. You are a terrible liar, you know. He is right. If I think back, I can still feel the tingle of warmth that had encompassed me, friendship in the air. I was an absolute wreck last night, and ashamed of it. But you didn't have to stay in my bed, I protest angrily, my words ripping through the air towards his ears. He laughs genially, confusing me greatly. You should think of me for one freaking minute, he demands, his voice persuasive and angered. I was the one that endured your stupidity. I was the one that had to lay beside my mate for 7 to 8 hours, trying to resist you. You know when mates usually bond. Bond. What? When, I ask. The minute they are mated, he points out. Desire is incredibly strong between two mates until bonding occurs. Then, after that, they are somewhat subdued. My pull towards you is so great, it takes every ounce of my strength to hold back. He looks pained as he speaks. Not looking at my face. I wish he would have clarified what he meant by bond. I'm not sure I understand. I feel a twinge of sorrow as I emit these next words. Well, I'm not a savage wolf, so you will probably have to wait much longer, I snap, rather bitterly. You could have just said thanks, he looks at the ground. It's not a big deal, anyway. It's only a kiss. I just couldn't do it to you. Not in your sleep. A kiss. On the lips. No way. Never. A blush appears on my cheeks. What are you thinking about? He asks, winking at me. I scowl in indignation. I have no idea what was up yesterday, I think with pain towards last night, bafflement in my features. Why I was acting that way. Remember, he prods. The shifter. In a flash, everything returns as his words trigger remembrance. The ghost from my dream, the pack of players. The fact that I am a seer. And that I can take revenge on the murderers of my parents. Oh yeah, I murmur, thinking of the fiery eyes that haunt my mind, encompassing all of my thoughts. Xavier halts, his form perfectly still. Someone's coming, he expresses in a frustrated whisper. Because of your big mouth, I open my mouth to protest, but he just shakes his head. There is a blur of motion, the sound of a hand turning the knob, and Miss Penn sends the door flying open, a crash resounding as it collides with the wall. Why are you disturbing the other orphan's sleep? You selfish, ungrateful girl, she snaps, walking close to my form. She sticks an accusing finger in my face, her claws too close for comfort. Who were you talking to? She demands. I shake my head, and she snorts. I know you were talking to somebody. She scans the window, peering in hope that she will find some sort of incriminating evidence. I know I heard you say something, she murmurs menacingly. Just where is the thing? Ms. Penn turns, and the answer to her question wags his tail. She gasps, noting the size of the wolf, the creamy, flawless fur he is blessed with. But even she is not distracted for long. Holding her nose, she begins to cough erratically. Trying to squeeze words through her fit. Why, do you have a wolf in the bedroom? I'm allergic to dogs, she chokes. He jumped through the window, I protest, but it is no use. You should have the window shut at all times. The cough's growing worse. Ms. Penn grabs me by the arm. Tugging me down the stairs. Xavier, in his beautiful wolf form, follows me with his head bent towards the floor. You better feel guilty, wolf boy. I think angrily. It's all your fault. I have always known, ever since the very first day I came here, that dogs are not allowed. It was the first phrase uttered when I arrived at the misshapen orphanage. I can still remember Ms. Penn all those years ago, with light brown hair instead of a faded gray, telling me I can't bring my gorgeous little German Shepherd puppy into the orphanage. He was my best friend, with silky smooth chocolate fur, who I had named Spotty because of the huge splotch of caramel color around his eyes. Because of Ms. Penn, Spotty ran away from the orphanage on that fated day, never to return. And what hurt most was the fact that nobody with me cared enough to chase after him. Ms. Penn even holding me so I couldn't go myself. Ms. Penn, gripping my already injured hand tightly, drags me outside. Xavier following behind. I don't want to see your face, she roars. Until after school. No early cleaning for you. She shoves me, and I fall towards the ground, the air blurring around my form. I land on a furry back, and slightly smile. Sometimes it is nice to have a personal savior. She gapes at the scene, the majesty of the wolf under me. What about breakfast? I ask quietly, trying to stand back up, but failing. My ankle hurts terribly, caused by Ms. Penn's violent push. Get that, Wonder Dog to get you some, she huffs, glaring at the source of her coughs. Xavier stares at her, unblinking, and utters a low, terrorizing growl that rips through the air and shakes her to the bone. She shivers, although the temperature is around 80 degrees.